See, there's on YouTube, there's that extra step. On YouTube, there's that extra step. You got to hit the go live button.
Sure you want to go live?
Are you positive you want everyone to see you play HD poker? I already said this, but Mage, we couldn't find that Mega Milk game. I think it was a little too hot for Steam, so we're playing this really aesthetically pleasing HD poker game.
Playing HD poker alone.
Oh, whoa! How do I? I just hit play and it automatically. How do I choose a lobby? How do I?
Okay, so
go to what?
Well, I don't know.
How do you do it?
I just hit play now and it gets me to lobby.
I just want a low stakes.
Yeah, hit the go to lobby tab and then find one that's like 10 to 15k or something. Gutter.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, you can sort by. Wow, 10 million buy-in. Yeah, not interested in that. I'm only interested in big ballers, please.
No fatties.
Okay. Wait, 4 billion to 10 billion is the highest buy-in. Wow. How about a 10 to 50k buy-in?
That sounds great.
7 out of 9. There's just enough for both of us. The gutter, number 7. I'm gonna invite you. How do I do that?
It's appropriate for offense.
15 relaxation. How do I invite my good buddy? Help. Oh, okay. I just found it, but yeah. Okay, I gotta.
A lot more than that. Oh, okay. All right. Tell me what your hand.
You can literally just look over here and see it if you want, but.
I don't have glasses on, so I can't see that.
Great. Perfect. Be funny if my frame rate was bad even on this. I'm gonna listen to us for a second and see if this is okay. I'm hearing the game. Nope. Can't hear us. That's interesting. Oh no, there we are.
You know what's funny is that I have friends who are still playing games.
We're still playing this game.
True. I mean, currently we are. Dan played this game a week ago.
Oh, I'm back. Yeah, I don't know when we. I mean, there've got to be better poker games, right? I won 17,000 there somehow. I won 17,000 with an 8 and a 5. Raising all the way to 800, baby. Oh, that's the best part of this game, yeah. No. Before the flop? Nuh-uh, baby. They're both red. That's what's important. That's what always fucks me up is I always look at the colors and I'm like, this is a great hand. They're both the same. I have so many cards of the same color.
I've got 2
aces. I could try to come up with a joke about ace of blacks, but I'm just not really feeling it tonight.
Understandable. They've had enough. By they, I mean we.
We all lost him, really.
What's so much to give us?
I listened to like 10 seconds of his music and it was terrible.
Oh no, sorry, Juice. Wherever you are.
Nice, super call. Damn. All right, I don't care. Yes! Boom. What is a 10 kicker? But why would it note that?
Might have been that else had the same pair as you, but you had a...
My secondary card was on the table, so he had it too.
I'm telling you, man.
It's weird.
Poker is a game.
That's, yeah. I agree. The beautiful game, they call it.
Everyone does.
That's what I say about every sport.
Yeah. Well, because eventually you're going to find some cares about that. Thank you. Thank you for acknowledging my... sport.
It's mine that's beautiful. How's our frame rate, OBS?
She is beautiful.
Why am I getting 15 frames per second?
You got something weird going on in your set. No?
I mean,
Maybe you should just stop streaming 1080p.
it's not even using all my CPU. I don't get it.
I won.
Congrats. Let's see. Let's just go through. Okay. Yeah, I mean, 30 frames a second, 1080. X264, 6,000 kilobits per second. Keyframe interval of 2 seconds. I don't know what that means. CPU usage preset very fast.
Every other podcast that I listen to, go home to see their family and stuff, and they come back with all kinds of stories because their lives, like their parents are fucked up or they're fucked up. Well, my family's just so normal that all that happens is we have like a holiday together. Chill action, everything's pretty mellow.
Yeah, like all the podcasts I listen to are like people are punching each other over Scrabble, you know, and
Yeah, like, you know, my family and I love and respect each other, so it's kind of hard to. I have to like lie. I guess I could just come up with these fantastical. Not really my bag, man. Maybe we should just become like chronic liars, like habitual liars.
I don't even. The problem is I don't think I could. I'm not good at making up stories, you know. Rate control, CBR.
I don't know. You could elaborate. You could add some story, a little bit of exaggeration,
That's true.
amplify them. You got like a. Yeah, it's not like crazy person.
If I'm gonna get any funny stories, it's gonna be out of my dad.
Yeah. Dad seems to be in a better place now, so I don't really know. You should make your dad go off the rails.
Yeah, I should drive him.
You should really fuck up your dad's life for the sake of our podcast that nobody listens to.
I made this. Oh yeah, no, it's not alcoholic. It's fine. Here, have a few of them. They're good. I made him myself, Daddy.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You should start an incestuous romance with your dad.
For the podcast, yeah.
I did it for the podcast. So we should. Yuck.
Thanks, man. I had one ace.
That's what your dad's telling you when you're fucking jerking him off.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dad. The closest my dad and I have ever.
Sorry, I'd love to riff, but I'm looking up OBS.
We're playing with Alyssa Death and.
Always use CBR. Okay, I'm on CBR. It's kind of fucked up, honestly. Oh no, I missed my turn.
Everyone just fucking folded. I played poker like a normal person. Finally at a and everyone just fucking folds. What am I supposed to do about that? Did everything. Today is full.
Yeah, you know, maybe this isn't the type of game where frame rate really matters.
Quick response skills don't.
Oh, we're almost at 30 there for a second.
Let's get back to you sucking your dad off.
Okay, well, I wouldn't like it.
That's why it's so good.
That's what makes it. Oh yeah, see, when I'm tabbed into the game, I'm reaching 30, so that's
You
fine.
need to get this incestuous relationship with your dad going. It's a funnier bit than we've ever had.
This is a really funny bit where he fucks his dad. I played a game of poker once. I won a blowjob from my dad. I had a 3 and an 8, and
Fold it every time.
and he got a 6, a solid 6.
Whoever loses gets a blowjob.
I have not looked at the rules of what you can say on Twitch.tv. So
You can probably see.
you can. Yeah.
Probably chill.
Don't call anyone a fag, but you can talk about blowing your parents.
Well, that's just normal.
Oh, gamer moment. I sucked off my dad on stream again. I forgot to turn my stream off. And then it was 10 p.m. cummy time.
Yeah, it's really hard when you're on stream. Dad's calling you because you got him tied up for like days in like some sort of sexual bondage situation.
You're like barely picking up on your mic anymore.
What? I'm really close up to it. I swear. I'm so close to my mic.
Hmm.
What went wrong?
I wonder if I could just boost you.
Eddie,
I'm just gonna boost you.
boost him.
Wait, which one are you?
Just boost.
You're boosted, man. Consider yourself fucking boosted, dude.
Oh, take me to the limit.
Take it to the limit.
Edge.
That looks.
I'm not being picked up at all, I think. Maybe.
Is that a my mic?
Maybe. That's weird. Audio source.
Whoa, I don't know.
You might need to set up that as an input. Sources and right click. No, it's the.
No, it's. This is for video. This isn't audio.
It's also your audio inputs.
No, it's not.
No?
No. That's in here. And it's that.
Yeah, it should be coming in through voice meter. No? You go back to settings. Go back.
Hogs
Desktop
output.
audio.
Yep.
Do you have to start voice meter?
Oh, is it not open? Wait.
Well, if voice meter is open, I'm just wondering if you have to enable something.
I don't know if. Wait, I might not have. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're in there. I don't know. Should I send you to B2? Does that. Oh.
Hello.
Oh, there you go.
Ah. Weird. I wonder if anybody heard me during the podcast that we recorded.
You should. They should have.
Yeah, okay. I'm back.
Because I was listening and. Well, wait. I don't know. Mage didn't say anything.
Probably didn't want to hear me anyway.
Boom.
We
We told you, Mage, we couldn't find Mega Milk Story. They took it off of Twitch. We're playing poker.
send it to us via email.
We're fucking destroying this table right now, and all you care about is your titties.
Send it to us via Google Drive.
Also, do our voices sound okay? Not like our voice. Yeah, I know our voices aren't good, but the volume.
What?
I mean,
Speak for yourself. I have a sultry, sexy voice.
we're both like tenors. It's not good.
Yeah, one of us really needs to be speaking down here.
That's good.
Yeah. I'm just like a Steve Bloom character now. When he gets his voice real low, I'm gonna go all in. I went all in.
I don't know if I've gained money or lost money, but there's one thing I do know. I'm high on PCP at this poker table. What?
Just weird to the delay. You have to recall what you knew. It's the only thing you know, and you really have to.
Don't know what I know yet. There's one thing I do know.
The only people that know where the edge is are the ones that have gone over it.
It's just like from Moms, the skit Moms. It's like I do know one thing. You sure are stupid. Thanks for the skull, Alyssa Death.
She's a cowgirl.
That's cute.
Howdy, little lady.
Oh, that's a lot of money. I don't want that much.
We should just pitch one of our voices down during the podcast.
Does Voice Meter have that ability? I'll do that right now. I don't care.
Make me a high-pitched little angel.
Okay. All right.
Oh, there's an echo. Wait. Go. Yeah, maybe. Brightness high.
Whoa.
Turn me up. Turn me up.
I'm not gonna be able to listen.
Turn me up.
Oh, here. I'll listen on my laptop.
Okay.
Hold on.
Crank my shit.
Let me check this as we go.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna drag it. Oh wait, that's not.
No, that's the wrong one. Hell yeah, motherfucker. That's what I'm fucking talking about, you son of a bitch. Playing poker so hard. Woohoo!
Okay. It's
Yeah,
a bit of
baby.
delay.
Yeah. I'm talking into a microphone. This would have been a perfect hand for me to go in on, by the way. There are 2 ways I could have fucking won
I
this.
think that just made you
Oh.
louder or something.
Outer space.
No, that didn't do anything.
Oh, no? Okay. Oh, you might have to enable it or something. We'll worry about that later. Playing poker now. I'm in the poker zone.
It just made you sound like you're on an old-timey radio for a little while.
Oh, it might be like a high and low pass.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it says low and high right there.
Okay.
What's this do? Comp? Audio, video guy. What is comp?
Dude, you know how little bit I know about audio? Comp. Gate.
No, that's like a quietness thing.
Yeah.
Mono solo.
You know what? I think we're doing
How
fine.
do I reset? Oh, whoa. Modulation.
Yeah.
FX. Okay, that
Modulate
sounds-
me, baby.
That sounds good.
Modulate me, baby. Yeah. Let's go.
I'm like 30 seconds behind.
Why is this voice meter called banana?
I don't know.
Going all in on the sand.
Okay, quiet. We're getting to the modulation.
What's going on?
It's good.
What does it do?
I can't split. You sound like a robot.
Okay, perfect. I am a robot now. This is Robot Ethan. I'm a fucking card playing machine, motherfucker. This is like the back end of a trip home, so I'm pretty fucking tired at this point.
Yeah.
But the content's still good, baby. Oh,
I'm just gonna keep you as a robot. I don't care.
that's fine. I don't mind. All right, we gotta get serious about this poker, or we gotta go back to golf or something.
I'm getting serious about poker, dude.
Okay, let's do it. You gotta fucking pipe those donks.
Yeah, I gotta brick the.
You gotta break the C4.
I mean, poker's a casual game. You know, it's
Yeah, to an outsider, it might
doing
be.
the
To
kind of.
somebody who doesn't understand the nuances, it would be a casual game, wouldn't it?
I guess, yeah. I know.
Somebody's not intelligent enough to keep up with what's going on screen. I see your brain's, you have smoke coming out of your ears over there as you're trying to understand the complexities.
There's also a 3D thing, so I can make it sound like I'm like maybe behind you. I don't know.
Oh, I don't want that.
Probably not really if you're in headphones. I don't.
Yeah, alright.
It's a bummer that's the only weird shit they got. Just modulation.
It's a bummer we couldn't get the end of Gemini Man going.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'll buy a new hard drive or what. I mean, I'll probably just buy a new computer.
Just get a new computer going at this point, homie.
Yeah. 100, 2,000. Oh, yeah, sure.
I've got, like I was saying on the podcast, I got a fucking family party tomorrow with a bunch of young kids. There's so many of them at this point. And, like, I'm bad with, like, 1 or 2 kids. Then there's, like, so many. You know, you running around yelling.
It doesn't seem like your problem. You can just kind of let them do that.
No, but I just don't like it happening in my presence.
Oh, you don't like... Oh, that's... You're a fucking Grinch, dude.
Well, no.
That's what you are. You're a Grinch. You hate little children running around being happy.
Yeah, any happiness disturbs me. I'm like, why can they have what I never had?
You saying that with the robot voice must be hilarious. Can't wait to listen to that later.
Why must these humans? Why must they gloat? Why must they show off their whimsy and merriment? While I am just a robot. I was born a robot.
Born to speed.
I like the irony of this character being an old man.
That's good. Put the modulation.
I think I still won
here.
somehow.
See what that does.
I just won both pocket jacks for some reason. Okay.
Hey, it happens.
Again, I should slowly seize this like my family being destroyed for the sake of content. Or what's the thing in your life you could fuck up the most and not really have that much of a huge impact on you? You know. You should just destroy your workplace, Declan. Like, do you think you could? Do you think you'd be able to do something that would ruin everyone? And you'd be able to turn okay?
In poker?
No, in your workplace. Like, I'm thinking about things that we could do to see content. Because right now our lives are too normal.
You're right. I agree.
We should just pick up a cocaine habit. Each of us.
I mean, yeah, I don't need that for content. I would just love to. That's what would make me better at my job. Is I need some Adderall.
Oh, there you go. I was thinking of getting an Adderall prescription just for fun.
Oh, I fucked your voice up probably too much with that one. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna put you back to normal because that's a bit much.
What is it? Is it just like fucking mosquito?
Yes, basically.
Okay.
Oh, you sound really. I sound like I'm talking to a demon.
So when we inevitably get to make our initial D movie, I've decided that what we're gonna do is we're gonna just get like a huge amount of cocaine and like hard liquor, and just go.
Yeah, like because like Initial D it's a tough one. I don't know how ripe it is for. First of all, I'm not even a fan of Initial D. You've barely watched any of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm the right person to be involved.
Well, that's
in
exactly why you are the right person. Is you need to make what you think an Initial D movie should be.
Yeah, if it's the Stephen King Maximum Overdrive situation, and I just don't remember it, and it turns out being pretty good, then I guess that's the optimal outcome.
I'm thinking we just bury ourselves in cocaine.
That's a tough one to adapt. So
why?
Because it's a difficult line to walk of seriousness versus silliness, and the music also, and
it's a world where the main character is hyper serious and everyone around him isn't as serious. His genuine concern and genuine appreciation.
Easier said than done, but I get what you're saying.
Like his pure-heartedness and commitment to the drift is ultimately what leads him to succeed in a world that doesn't think that he can and thinks he's delusional.
Interesting.
And then the world becomes crazier along with him. Like he's freaking the world out, you know? But yeah, the cocaine would figure it out for us, I think.
Famous last words.
Yeah. Or we could probably go to like a salt flat somewhere, you know, with really fast cars and just tie it on, you know, just fucking.
Salt flats are a little overdone with cars, man.
Well, I'm not saying we do it in the movie. I'm saying we just do it in real life to get the feel for the speed.
Visit the salt flats, hit the slopes, and then visit the salt flats, baby. Okay, yeah, but on the vein of making our lives more interesting, that's a good idea, but I have no ideas.
Okay.
That's a good concept, though.
Yeah. My life just keeps increasingly more normal.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know. Pranks aren't good.
Prank Superstar.
I don't want to do any pranks.
No, pranks are lame. The Life of Violence thing didn't really work out for me.
I could just start wearing hats. I don't know. If I just wore a hat to work every day.
What kind of hat?
All different kinds of hats.
Oh, wow. You'd be the hat guy then.
Cowboy. And no, I don't want to be the hat guy. That's fucking lame.
But if you wear hats, you would become hat guy.
I don't want to be hat guy.
Oh, okay. Let's just both become. I guess again, A Life of Violence didn't work out for me. I was going to suggest we just start like.
I want to make people really uncomfortable, but don't want to get in trouble like with like HR or with the authorities.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that you got like a job where you're accountable to people.
Yeah, I just want to really weird them out. But yeah, there's no real way to do. It needs to be something subtle enough that like they won't ask me about it outright.
Right.
And it's not against the rules or anything.
Where you start wearing your shirts backwards.
It's not the kind of thing. No, they'll mention that. It needs to be even subtler and weirder than that. It needs to be something that they're too uncomfortable to like mention, but also not like inappropriate enough that it's an actual problem.
You should start looking down all the time, just being like sad. Just like a sad sack. Also, by the way, if you look, I won. I had the most table gifts of anybody in last
Acting
hour.
Super sad. Table gifts. Nice. Yeah, I could just be sad. That's not a good funny podcast anecdote. That's not like I was sad today. Like,
what if you just started making an increasingly complex series of foods to bring in? For like, it's like, hey guys, I made this. It's in the break room, and you just start working your way up to like the most complicated dishes that exist.
That's just like being a somewhat interesting. That's just work that's gonna go unrewarded because no one's gonna fucking eat it. I made something for work once and it was good, and everyone else brought in a thing, and there's fucking 30 people working in there, so none of the food got eaten. I had to eat like a pound of bacon jam one weekend all by myself.
Oh, that sounds all right.
It was okay, but man, it was so much bacon jam.
Yeah,
making sandwiches that were like just bacon jam and some eggs. It's too rich.
One of us needs to become if only we had controversy. But you have to have people listening to you have controversy.
I should just destroy my ego and just find as many Tinder dates with really, really ugly girls as I can, and just try to talk to them about like I should become like a Goethe expert, like a Goethe scholar, and just try to talk to girls about Goethe.
What is Goethe?
The German
Oh,
philosopher.
it's Greta. Goethe. Oh, the German philosopher Goethe. Okay.
Goethe.
I was thinking Greta for some reason.
No. And I just talk about, and then when they don't know who he is, I just leave.
see, listen.
You don't know. You just never heard.
Two rules.
Just walk.
Number one, Goethe. Number two, chicken nuggets.
Number one, no sex. Number two, you need to at least know some Goethe.
One of us could go become a monk.
I'm definitely most likely to monk. That's high school class voted most likely to move to that Greek island where they just move rocks around and have never seen a woman. Just convert to orthodoxy.
You could go be Amish for a year.
That's the opposite of how it works. You're supposed to be not Amish for a year, and for the rest of your life, you're Amish.
Oh, you're Rumspringer or whatever. You're Ram Poker.
You're Goitensploiken.
Yeah, I mean, I guess monkhood would be interesting, but then you probably wouldn't care about anime anymore, so that'd be an issue.
Yeah, it's tough to balance.
The podcast life balance. You should get into
Yeah, man, I really wish I could just do Tinder dates, and you can't film those. There's probably like some privacy law against that.
Yeah.
I just have to relay them on the podcast, and at that point, it's just like, why don't I just make them up? you know.
Yeah, that's the thing is that we could just be lying about things that happen in our lives all the time.
Yeah.
But he keeps it raw. He keeps it real. Maybe that's
you know, reality is like it would be. I probably couldn't make up anything as good as what would actually happen.
I don't know. Usually we bring stuff to talk about. It's just this week. It's all I did was hang out with my family, who's boring, in the best way. Obviously, I love my family, but like, we just did normal people stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so I got nothing. I went all in for some reason.
Family of fucking normies, dude.
Yep. The highest end. Except my mom is into metaphysics, apparently.
I'm gonna open this chest. 563,000 chips.
No.
And a frog avatar. And a bingo lady avatar.
Nice, dude.
And 6 hot dogs. And 4 monkey paws.
I guess I could go get into like country western dancing. And just get into increasingly, like, start hitting on people's girlfriends and get beaten up.
That's where Steven gets all his stories. Is he just picked a hobby that no one under 50 has, and now he just has stories where he fucks and people try to fuck him, and he has sex in like Fuddruckers parking lots or whatever. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. I witnessed it happen in real time. I'm like, wow, that was easy.
You watched him have fuck in a car?
Yeah, I had fucking binoculars on. I was in the Fuddruckers I was playing a Mario Kart racing game.
You slowly roll by in a monster truck so you have an extra high vantage point.
Get some polarized glasses on to look through the lens. Yeah, I don't know. Hobbies that nobody has. I don't know. I was gonna get.
It's like dancing. You know, you could be a painter. You could just take classes. Take some kind of class.
Classes could be good. I should take a dog.
That's the key to. I know that. Like, I know this. Like, I'm not. This is no actual mystery. I know how this works. It's the same as getting women, making your life interesting. It's instead of looks maxing, you just serendipity max. You just have as many interactions as possible, and you will accumulate silly stuff happening. So classes is really probably the #1 way to do it.
Yeah, just as many interactions as you can possibly.
Or just going to parks. I don't know. Volunteering, right?
Did I ever talk about how I was fucking 2 coworkers at the same time?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't they find out?
Yeah, they went and hung out, but then it was chill.
You can't accumulate any controversy.
Yeah, I'm too charismatic.
Nothing interesting can happen to you. You're too fucking cool, dude.
Yeah, just swag my way through it.
Just swag on through, baby. How do I buy everyone a hot dog?
You go to the presents icon, which is on the top left corner of the screen.
Everybody gets a hot dog.
Yeah, no, I kind of finessed my way out of that one. I did yoga for a month straight, and all that happened was that I unleashed my chakras, and I was able to do kamehamehas and stuff. That was pretty cool.
It would suck to actually be able to do kamehamehas because there's never any chance to use them.
Oh, I could find some chances. I know exactly where I'd fucking go. I know exactly where I'd fucking go.
Oh man, well don't tell me.
I'm looking at you, Halle Berry.
Don't say it loud.
I'm looking at you, Halle Berry. I'm going after you.
Why Halle Berry? Why poor Halle?
I'll never forgive her for Catwoman. How dare you take a paycheck?
That's a good movie.
What's going on? Am I all in? No, okay.
I think I've lost a lot of money.
Yeah, I did yoga. I just went rock climbing, but rock climbing is kind of like a solo activity, really.
Like indoor rock climbing?
Yeah. Technically it was bouldering. Because there was no ropes. It's just like a bunch of pads on the ground. And that was kind of like, yeah, I don't know.
How many fucking hot dogs do I own?
You just keep buying them, man.
Oh, I'm buying them?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I owned them.
They're cheap, though, I think.
Yeah, they are.
I'm trying to hustle my way across the country playing pool.
It's not 1963, man. I don't know if you can do that anymore.
What do you mean? I'm gonna get on the road. I'm gonna go.
How much money could you possibly make playing pool? Like $10. Like, no one's gonna.
That gets me to the next city, man.
No.
What do you mean?
How?
You know how many miles to the gallon my car gets?
How many?
30. That's 3 gallons worth of gas. It's 90 miles, baby.
That's not enough.
Hard miles on the road.
We live in the most empty country on the planet. You're gonna get through the fucking. You're gonna get through the deserts with that. You're gonna get through fucking New Mexico.
Well, I'd also hustle darts.
Oh well, in that case, you are insane at darts.
Yeah.
I've noticed that you're insane with darts.
That people notice that. They see me playing darts. They're like, I don't want to fucking play against that guy. He's
That
too
guy's
good.
fucking crazy.
That's actually the reason I couldn't
Darts,
hustle
dude.
across the country is because I'm too good.
Wait, what was? How good are you?
I'm too good.
I didn't hear it. I can't wait to hear it later.
I'm just blowing. I'm not that good at poker though, as you can tell as I blow all my money. But yeah,
I don't know.
I'm just like I'm dating like a normal person with a normal life. I don't know.
I feel like a lot of the time the content does the work for us. This just time it's like we liked Fully Coolly Progressive and Alternative just fine.
They were good.
Welcome to the podcast debrief.
let's get the
Welcome
notes
to
out.
welcome to gang stalking debrief.
This is what happens behind the scenes.
No one's eating their hot dogs, man. Come on. They're kind of green. They look like they got toothpaste in them, but they're good.
Did I tell you that I ate out of 7-Eleven for Thanksgiving?
No.
Well, on Thanksgiving, I went to a football game, and by the time I got out of the football game, everything was fucking closed except for the 7-Eleven at a Sonic. And I was sitting at the Sonic drive-thru for 40 minutes, and nobody took my order. And I'm like, well,
I don't know if it was open, man.
it was. There were people who were coming in and out. And so that didn't work.
You sat there for 40 minutes?
It probably was probably like 20 minutes, but like they're like, okay, wait for somebody to come take your order, and then nobody took my order, so I left. I went to a 7-Eleven, and I got a hot dog and a chicken biscuit sandwich. And the hot dog, the chicken biscuit sandwich was okay, but the hot dog, they didn't have the chili machine going. They didn't have chili going, so it's just like a pretty normal hot dog with mustard on it. And that was my Thanksgiving dinner. I ate it in a hotel room while drinking a Four Loko.
Wait, why were you in a hotel room? Were you up here for Thanksgiving? Wait.
No, I was down south.
Oh. You were traveling, though?
Yeah, I was in Dallas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like my job.
Everyone at this table is the same dude. Oh, I guess it must be the default guy, because no one's got any money.
Everyone's a cool cucumber, man. You should start smoking absurd amounts of weed.
Where am I supposed to get weed?
Oh, fuck, that's a good question.
Yeah, like, I don't know any guys.
Are there any states near here that have weed?
I mean, you can't smoke absurd amounts if you have to drive to a different state to get it.
What do you mean?
I could drive to Canada, but then I have to go across the,
Yeah,
the
that's
U.S.
gotta be a
border
different state.
with...
What about...
Yeah,
What,
there's no state within driving distance, like... reasonable driving distance of here.
do you know about how Dread Pirate Roberts, like tried to have people killed?
No.
You remember Dread Pirate Roberts from the Silk Road?
Oh, that was his name?
Yeah, the guy who ran the Silk Road. He was
Yeah.
and there was somebody who threatened to release a bunch of names of dealers and stuff, like they had somehow gotten information
Yeah.
of like customers, and then he's like, okay, my life's being threatened by this gang, and I need the money to pay them off, so he's basically getting blackmailed by one dude, and then the gang contacts him and they're like, hey, we'll take care of this dude for you for, $500,000 or whatever. And you're like, okay, yeah, I'd love to have him hit. And then there's another dude who starts bothering him. He's like, hey, can you hit this guy too? And it turns out that all of the people that were bothering him and the gang were all the same person who took him for a ride. He got scammed.
And they were all cops?
None of them were cops.
Oh.
Yeah, the story came out after he got arrested.
Oh.
But yeah, he tried to have people killed. Remember the Silk Road? I wonder if are there still online drug
No.
markets.
I don't know. How would I know?
I don't know.
How would I know?
It's not illegal to know about stuff.
I wouldn't know about that.
Oh, one of us should start dealing drugs.
Again, all your ideas are drug related, and I don't know. These are really only possible for you. What am I gonna? I bet New Hampshire's got weed. I can drive there. But that's still like, that's a once in a while. That's easily 5 hours.
You know what you do is you get like
Gotta buy in bulk.
yeah, you gotta buy in bulk and then find some way to mask it, or just not get pulled over.
There's got to be a maximum you can buy at once.
Well, you can go to a bunch of different taps or distillery. What the fuck
They
are
probably only have like 2. You know.
they? Yeah. Actually, I don't know. I went to Colorado and they had one at every street corner. So
They've had it for a while.
yeah. Well, maybe not drugs then. Illicit sex, that could be good. Get really into like a
I'm
kink.
not doing any sex stuff. I don't.
Not gonna get into a kink.
No, probably
Okay.
not.
All right.
I don't know if you can get into a kink. I think you either kind of have that.
Well,
or
what if you
don't.
just dip your toes in and see how you're feeling?
I don't want to dip my toes in.
You're not gonna dip your toes in the S&M
Oh,
scene?
if I'm gonna have a kink, it's not gonna be any toe stuff. Let me tell you.
Oh, okay. All hands then.
Oh man.
Fingernails. Pulling them off.
Legal. States.
Legal kinks.
Massachusetts. What?
They might have medicinal.
But even if it's medicinal, you can just go to a store, right?
No, you need to have a green card.
Oh. But does it even matter which state the card? Well, I guess. Okay.
I think it does.
Why am I even looking this up? I don't even like weed.
Well, it's the thing is you need to just like start having like crazy
Just doing it anyways because I hate it.
Yeah. It's like night 18. I'm so drowsy. I fell asleep at work today. I was also really paranoid that somebody could smell me.
Oh, Massachusetts has got that recreational apparently.
There you go.
Wait.
You can go visit Jared.
So does Vermont. They're both equally close. Yeah, I don't know.
Probably safer in Vermont. Actually, I don't know. If you go to Vermont, the cops are probably more likely to pull you
It's like,
over.
why are you going to Vermont? Yeah, the thruway goes straight through fucking Massachusetts. Interesting.
You could just say that you got family in Boston.
Just take a weekend to go to Massachusetts and buy a shit ton of weed.
Why not?
Fucking, oh god, then your car breaks down, you gotta, what a nightmare.
You can just eat it.
Eat it, yeah, on the way.
Yeah, I don't know. Just see how much that sucks.
Yeah, just be a weed guy for like 6 months.
Oh, I feel like that would really ruin your attitude. I don't know if you would like it.
I didn't like it when we had that summer where we smoked weed.
Maybe you like it more now.
It'll probably be the same as it always is, which is there's a 2 out of 5 chance that it sucks and I'm miserable, and there's like a 2 out of 5 chance that I have a good time, and then there's a 1 out of 5 chance that I freak out and think that I'm having a heart attack.
Yeah, that happens.
Which is too high for a drug that everyone does. You'd think it would be less than like 1 out of 5.
I think they get good at it.
They get really good at it, man. They're way
People are
they're
able
way
to just
too
wake
chill.
up and smoke.
These weed guys, they're too chill, man.
It's called dissociation.
Dissociation.
Dissociation. You should just start going hang out with Stephen when he goes to tango events and reporting back. You should just sit on the sidelines and let him
just be a orbiter of Steven.
Well, see what he's doing. Just wait and like he'll give you his unfiltered like take on what's going on at the moment, you know, and you'll just be writing notes.
I mean, I'll just be standing around. He'll be dancing 99% of the time.
No. Put some glasses on, get a notepad, and take notes.
When you were filming him, how many shots did you get of him, like, making that face at women?
I mean, all of them. Every single shot he's in, he either points at the camera.
I can't believe he makes that face.
It works.
I can't believe it.
He bunned. But yeah, no,
Oh, there's one right on the border. They know what's going on in Massachusetts.
Yeah, no, like every single shot Steven was in when I was filming him doing tango, he points at the camera or makes like a stupid face at the camera, so we can't use the shot. It's really something. I love the man.
I bet you have to show a state ID, right?
No.
What?
No, I went to Colorado and I didn't have to. Not that I consume marijuana.
No, you just checked.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, what if I were to buy weed?
Yeah. I think I'm doing great at poker. I haven't really been paying attention, but
Oh, you know what we could do? We can just see who can stay up more days in a row without sleeping.
Sleep deprivation
Sleep
challenge.
deprivation, yeah.
That's great. I don't have a job or anything.
Yeah.
Just do that. Take a vacation and see how long I can not sleep.
Start taking notes? Oh, no, record your thoughts. And then
Oh
bring
my
your...
god, it would just when you go into complete psychosis at some point.
Oh, God.
You start seeing the shadow people.
I mean, I hit, like, hour, 36, things start to get dicey as hell.
Yeah, I hit about 36 or 40 when I came back from Japan. I stayed up. Wasn't actually even that bad. But there was that one time where we had an overnight gaming marathon.
Oh, God.
And it was because I had been hearing human voices, like, for 24 straight hours that I got home and I tried to stay up so that I could go all the way to the next night and just reset.
That's bad news.
And I was at 25 hours or so, and the lack of human voices caused me to start hallucinating people talking to me.
Oh, we don't want that.
And then I just fucking fell this shit asleep.
I keep seeing things out of the corner of my eye at my apartment because my apartment's on a relatively populated road. Like, people use it every day, constantly. And I have to keep my window open now because I have houseplants. I used to just keep them closed all the time.
Wait, you have to for the sun?
Yeah.
Okay, so during the day you do.
I don't wake up early enough to where to where they'd always be. I want them to get as much sun as possible. I want them to get it in the morning. I don't get up early enough to where they'd be missing out on a lot of sun. So I just keep it open. So at night, sometimes cars will go by with their headlights on, and I'll be like, "What the fuck was that?" And then yeah, when I'm laying in bed or whatever. I have absolute junk in my hand.
Yeah, I wouldn't stay up for that long, but I think 24-hour gaming marathons are like the funnest thing you can do. Staying up all night playing video games is the greatest, and not sleeping that's so much fun.
It's pretty good. You should just link up with David. David does it every night and just calls it his normal life.
Well, like not as a like as an event, like as a we're gonna stock up, and like I love that extra life stuff, that streaming. And I don't like helping sick kids or whatever, but I like the just staying up, and you just play whatever game you can. You stay up by any means necessary, and it's great.
Yep. Yeah, I like buying a whole bunch of junk food and feeling like absolute garbage. That's fun.
Yeah, if I were to do that now, I wouldn't do like junk food. I would do like basically road trip food, like jerky,
Yeah.
That's also the most fun thing is road trips.
Road trips are good.
I drove 7 hours to Maine and 7 hours back to attend a wedding for 4 hours. So worth it.
I drove
awesome.
Drove 16 hours to Colorado and then 14 hours back, just to stay for 2 nights.
Okay.
And that was sweet.
Just jerky trail mix.
Oh yeah.
Fucking tons of caffeine, modafinil.
We should see which one of us can live longer on just coffee and apples.
I can't eat apples.
What's wrong with you not being able to eat fruit, man?
It bothers my stomach. I don't know.
That's weird shit. Maybe is it too acidic? But I guess you drink a lot of booch.
I have a ton of acidic shit. No, it's only raw stuff, raw vegetables and fruits.
Weird.
I don't know. I just can't break down the fiber or the fructose or something. I don't know.
We can see.
I've been working on my gut flora. Maybe it's better now. Maybe I have a healthier gut. Maybe I can do it easier.
We can see who can get a lower body fat percentage. See which one who can get more shredded.
I mean, that's something we should do. That wouldn't be fun, but that's just a healthy, responsible.
Well, we could talk about our diet plans. We can go different routes. We can concoct different strategies and how we're gonna do it. You know,
Yeah.
different methodologies. We can talk shit. It's like I just ate nothing but turkey and rice for a straight week, motherfucker. You know, call each other out on Twitter.
I think I've maxed out my chicken breast skills. I can make chicken. I can make just chicken breasts, salt and pepper, fucking amazing. I just eat it by itself. It's so good.
There you go.
The worst meat, and I've perfected it.
I don't know, but what about squirrel?
Okay, well that's the worst meat that you can find in a grocery store. The plainest, driest, you know.
I don't know. I wish is Mage still here? I wish Mage could have suggestions on how we could fuck up our lives.
No, I don't know.
I should start hanging around with loose women.
Start, huh?
Looser women.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, all the fucked up stuff that's happened in my life in the past few years hasn't been like fun or interesting to talk about. It's more just depressing. And like all like the core of my friend group disintegrating. It's not fun.
It's a little fun.
In retrospect. Still living it though. Maybe I'll see what boxing's got. Should I do boxing or Krav Maga?
Is Krav Maga like karate?
Krav Maga is like the super ridiculous Israeli fighting style that's
Okay.
super tactical.
Tactical, huh? What's the one that's with cars? Stunts with cars.
Oh, what the fuck? Something about the drifting one?
No, the one where you're like popping up on two wheels and stuff.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
I thought it was. I get it and Krav Maga mixed up.
There's is it something kata?
Yeah, Jinkata?
No, Jim Kata isn't a ridiculous movie about. Maybe it is Jim Kata. Isn't Jim Kata a fighting movie though about gymnasts who are good at fighting?
Oh, there's probably a bunch of terms
You're thinking
conflating in my head. Maybe it is Jim. I don't know, man. Yeah.
Hold on, let's find out. I'm gonna fold really quick.
Krav
I'm
Maga,
gonna find out.
Jim Kata. No, don't fold. Your hand is good. Oh, you already folded.
Yeah, Jim Kata's the movie. This poster's really good.
Mage says all his stories are him fucking someone else. Nice. Nice, dude.
I'm so close. I'm looking at images that should be labeled as this.
Parrot Kings, baby.
What the? Mage is still listening? Damn, it's wild.
He's a wild man.
He'll just listen to anything.
What if he has like 8 podcasts going at once and he just has a crazy...
Is it Jim Kana? Is it Jim Kana?
I'm probably thinking of Jim Kana, yes. Is that fighting or is that car stuff? Is it car stuff?
It is car stuff. Jim Kana is...
Thank God I wasn't just hallucinating.
No wonder we were so fucking close. I mean, we couldn't figure it out.
Krav Maga and Jim Kana. But there is like a movie, right?
Jim Kata is the movie, which is about fighting.
Jim Kata is the movie about Jim Kana?
No, Jim Kata is about Jim Kata, which I don't think actually exists.
Oh, it's not real.
But Jim Kana is real.
Oh, God, okay. Oh, fuck. Jesus, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think I'll do Krav Maga and report back. I think
do Jim Kata.
Oh, yeah.
Manifest the style.
I was thinking, how hard would it be to learn how to do backflips and shit?
Oh, dude, you'll hurt yourself. You're past... You're mid-20s now. It's too late.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No, I'm sorry.
That was it. My upward potential has been reached as far as like crazy somersaults.
By the time you're like spry enough to do that, yeah, you're gonna be like too old, man.
Oh, fucking hell.
That's probably not true, but you're not like... You're like a normally size... Like your frame is... You're not a twink, you know? You're not like a skinny, like jumping around parkour man.
Damn it. Could have been a parkour man. No?
I don't know. You got like you you're a medium framed.
Just average human. I'm like,
Yeah,
if you
you're
create a
not-
character in Skyrim, that's exactly what I look like. Could probably use a mace. Probably couldn't vault over like a big fence or something.
Start a fight club. That's pretty good.
Oh, that's a good idea. Nobody's done that.
What if we made a movie about it?
Oh, that'd be nuts.
And we'll call it Jim Cotta.
Our ex-Spicy's gonna call me out. He's gonna call me out, right? Oh, he folded! Woo, let's get it! Fuck you, one pair.
Damn.
Maybe I should dedicate the next 6 years of my life to getting in shape to play professional football. I'll practice every day.
There are positions where you can play till you're old as shit, right?
I'll just become a really good kicker, like a professional kicker. Play until I'm 47.
Yeah. I wonder how much of that is learnable.
Oh gosh, good question. I mean, there's definitely you need to be some sort of genetic freak on some level to play.
Yeah, like you need extra tendons in your shit, you know?
Yeah, like you need to be fucked up. You also, I mean, I hate getting hit. That was the thing that stopped me from playing football. Was getting hit sucks.
Oh, you played, so you actually know what it's like to just be fucking railed.
Dude, it sucks. I fucking broke my finger once. I caught my...
Yeah, I know, it sounds awful.
Yeah, it wasn't even like a particularly strenuous play.
Like, I'm okay with the large impact, but it's all the little stuff, like all the
Yeah.
stuff getting pinched and, like, bent and...
Well, that's why I can't box, because I'll break my fucking nose, and it's like, then your nose is broken.
And that could fuck your, your brain's fucked up, not just from, like, the CTE, but your nose can go into your brain.
Yeah, you just die.
You just die.
It's like, yo,
Or you have a nose, or you have the remains of a nose poking into your brain for the rest of your life.
Hey, Declan, I'm gonna take a boxing class. Don't fucking...
Yeah.
It didn't go too well.
The next day, you're just like, oh, we're pretty good.
Big wonky.
Give me my wonky, mommy.
Okay. Well, let's rule out physical contact sports. I went climbing and immediately ruined my entire body, so I might rule that one out too.
Hey, look at pickled pupper here.
Is there anything I can do, like, physically at this point in my life at 24?
You get really good at biking.
My knees, though.
That's not hard on your knees, is it?
No, you're not having the impact, but sometimes the repetitive motion can be a bit of a strain.
Physically, you could skydive.
No, it's expensive.
They're all kind of expensive. You could,
Golf. You take up golf.
you could just do arm stuff. You could canoe. You could row.
It'd be cool to have, like, a super shredded, huge back.
Yeah, we've all seen the guys who skip leg day, but what about guys who only do the back?
I don't know how people still do it. I don't know. I go to the gym and I see people who are just entirely upper body. And I'm not saying I've got the biggest legs in the world, but, like...
People hate doing squats. They suck.
Ooh, I keep fucking winning, boy.
Damn.
Keep fucking
I
winning.
graduate from this table. A million? Holy shit.
But, yeah, like... I don't know. I need some sort of competition in my life. I don't have any competition. I haven't had competition
You
since...
gotta be a pro gamer.
Oh, it sucks, though. I mean, David and I play enough Smash to where I should be at this point.
Nah. There's no strategy. You're just winging it when you play Smash.
I feel it. I don't have to have strategy.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
The game speaks to me.
I'm watching this stream on two different PCs, and I only see two of Mage's comments on one of them, and I see all three on the other. That's very strange. You hide that one? Is that a secret?
Secret message to us.
Congratulations, Mage. You're a moderator.
I was gonna say, it's about time.
Is that permanent?
You earned it, buddy.
Have I just never done that? Or is that only for this stream? I don't know. You can delete all the other users' comments.
Yeah, everything that you can do is expensive, and I'm not making enough money right now.
Yeah, I only do free stuff. Just pirate movies. Just
Dude. It's the life right now.
Just only do stuff you can do with your own body, man. I'm talking about fucking and sucking. I'm talking about sucking and fucking.
I'm gonna do the Alex Honnold thing, and I'm just gonna climb up a fucking mountain with my bare hands. I'm just gonna fucking.
Yeah, see, that sounds miserable.
Just not gonna use. Well, I was worn and torn after fucking like 45 minutes of climbing the other day. This dude just domes an entire fucking mountain in one go with no ropes.
Thanks for the pill bottle.
For like
spicy.
For like 4 hours, he's climbing this fucking mountain. I'm like, you're good. You're nuts, guy.
That's what remind me. Next time we're in Japan, we gotta climb that mountain that we missed last time.
No.
See those monkeys.
Maybe this time we'll have a better grasp on what the fuck's happening.
I feel like I knew what was going on. I just couldn't talk to anyone.
Dude, I just keep fucking winning.
Jesus. What are you even doing?
Playing
You went with a
poker.
5 and a 4.
I'm in the zone. I'm in the poker zone. I could become an arsonist.
Well, you have to add a twist to it. You need to be some kind of anti-hero arsonist, like only burn down
Homeless villages.
only burn down like barbecue smoke houses, and it's like, okay, well, you know, everything's extra smoky now.
That's exactly what the owners are thinking. They're like,
Yeah, I don't
We
know.
were
That
looking for-
wasn't a great example. Okay, how about this? You only burn down
orphanages.
when people go to jail for pedophilia. You burn down their house afterwards. Just destroyed like the value of the house.
Their property.
Just like just destroying economic.
Any chance that they can reintegrate into society. I could just assassinate pedophiles.
There's already people like dedicated to that, and that's already a weird. There's already too many people on that. First of all, and second of all, like, it's tough to like, because you're gonna have to get into the pedophile hunting crew. They're all a bunch of weirdos. They beat my pocket aces.
Oof.
Oh.
Yeah, I hate to see it.
Oh,
no,
I
you
got-
should
no,
win.
I-
No, you should get the bigger pot.
Okay, that's. Thank you.
I wonder if I could hunt the people that hunt pedophiles.
Honestly, yeah.
The pedophile hunter.
You hunt. You're still negative on pedophiles like a normal person.
Yes.
But you don't hunt them. You only hunt the weirdos who hunt them.
Well,
because honestly, I would be just as uncomfortable around a pedophile hunter as I would be around a pedophile.
Well, the thing is, I don't support vigilantism, and to fight that, I have to be a vigilante in my own right.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate hypocrisy. But I mean well.
To be truly tolerant, one must be intolerant of intolerance, as you say, as you
Yes.
bash the pedophile hunter's head in.
And the pedophile is like, thank you, and then as he comes over,
Hey man, listen, I'm calling the cops on you, buddy. You just murdered a man.
that's a really good podcast material, though. It would be pretty self-incriminating. So we're not that hard to track down. I guess it's not really so much about making making the podcast more exciting. It would make my life more exciting.
No one's got any money at this fucking table.
I got it all, baby. It's all mine. The world is yours. The pedophile hunter. It's good.
I'm just gonna miss your. Okay.
No! Ow! Fuck! Oh god.
Well, you would have lost, so who cares?
Why? I had a flush. Oh, you had a higher flush. Oh, you had a higher flush?
I had a cute queen and a 9.
You're wild.
Yeah. I won a whole fucking less than 200k, whatever.
Oof.
Oh.
I figured somebody would have that. You're still at 500 grand though.
Oh yeah, I guess that's okay.
I think we both need to marry into crazy families.
I mean, yeah, the lady not crazy, just the family.
Yeah.
That's probably just gonna happen anyways, you know.
Oh, you think so?
I mean, a lot of families are pretty weird. Like, there's a good chance.
You think so? I don't know if that many families are that weird.
I don't know if you have to purposefully seek one out. Is what
Well,
I'm saying.
I mean, first of all, I always look for damaged girls to begin with. Second, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they're damaged, I don't know if the family's just going to be weird or quirky in the way you want. I think they're just going to be like fucking miserable.
Destructive sounds like it'd be good material. Like my stepfather just threw a fucking chair through a window on Thanksgiving.
Like that's I don't know if that's worth the material. That might not be what you want.
That wouldn't be my stepfather. That would be my father-in-law, I guess.
Yeah, I know. Also, yeah, people get those mixed up a lot. I think my dad's wife referred to me as her son-in-law.
I should break up my parents' totally functional marriage, and then
they're like 70. They're fucking old as shit.
Yeah.
They're like smoking pipes next to each other, like in a field under a tree.
Yeah, and I'm gonna break up their perfectly functional marriage so that they have to date again.
Couldn't date again. No, you have to convince them to date again afterwards.
Yeah, well, because they're like, oh, I'm already on my way out, you know. But
get them into make your parents be swingers. Convince them that they need to be swingers.
Have you guys ever thought about swinging?
You guys ever considered swinging?
Yeah, you know, I heard this funny story the other day about my friend who was a swinger. You know, pretty crazy lifestyle, huh? Like I'm trying to coax them into swinging with me.
Is a swinger. This is a normal thing to bring up.
He was fucking another dude's wife, and he's like, "Man, I wish I had done this way earlier."
So he's knee deep in this other man's wife's pussy.
Just destroy my own family.
For podcast material. For anime podcast material.
That nobody listens to anyway. Oh,
I won that one. I should have won more.
Fucking ace kicker. Oh god.
Could have bet more.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think I probably would have had to do that like 10 years ago. I think at this point they would probably just be depressed and die, which doesn't make for good content. I think.
No.
All of my parents' friends are getting cancer now.
Just looks at watch. Oh, yep, cancer time. Whoops.
Just rolled over to 65. It's time to go.
Time for my left nut to say sayonara.
Wasn't using it anyway.
That's not really. That's probably that's one of the safer kinds of cancer. You can have nut cancer. That's not really a big problem.
Take that big boy off.
Yeah.
That big old bloated boy.
I don't know. They sowed the seeds of AIDS or HIV denialism in me. And that was one thing, but now I'm starting to suspect that cancer isn't even fucking real, because Alex Trebek's still alive.
Well, yeah.
And, that's, I wonder if, maybe...
HIV denialism?
HIV AIDS denialism.
What is this?
It's people who don't think that HIV causes AIDS, and that AIDS is basically just, a combination of, like, being totally worn out from having a bunch of different like mini viruses because of being gay, and also doing tons of meth and partying all the time and not being healthy at all.
I'm going to have to look into this. Well, isn't HIV just like an immunodeficiency virus anyway? I mean, it's literally the name,
No,
right?
it's just a virus. But it's like they find all kinds of viruses in those guys because they're gay and they're having cum in their ass all the time. So it's like...
Come on, guys, just rub her up.
They don't need to. No uterus.
It's gross, and you don't want to be there in there anyway without a rubby.
Yeah.
It's gross. That's where poop comes from. That is where poop comes from.
Oh, yeah, ruining your dad and your brother's relationship to get more in the will. Man, that's a pro strat.
Oh, that's pretty...
Working the will is solid game.
Yep. You know what they say.
I don't know if anyone who's going to die has money. Who's directly related to me.
When there's a will, convince your dad your brother's gay.
Nice. That's pretty good.
Thank you.
Congratulations. There's your one joke for the night.
Thank you. It's about time. I've been trying for like fucking 6 hours now.
Hey, I did it.
I was thinking it'd be fun to shoot. This is so stupid. I was thinking it would be fun to shoot a rap music video at a clan meeting.
No, that'd be a good video.
Wouldn't it? Like, you have him around the corner, you know? Like, he's like, I need to go to the bathroom really quick. And he's around the corner, and his clan, like, he takes the hood off, and he's rapping at the camera, and he got, like, the camera so
They would
could
let
see.
you do it, honestly. First of all, 75% of them are FBI agents. And, like, the other ones are more chill than you would expect. You know, like, they just don't really care. Like,
You know, it's really about the camaraderie in the KKK right now.
yeah, if you're nice to them, like, they'll totally let you do that. That's a great idea.
I'm thinking.
Has anyone done that? I
No
guess
way. Dude, Jake Fake Mafia would be on that shit so quick.
Yeah, they would do that.
Apparently, Mage's brother is gay.
I'm unmodding you.
Oh no.
We're having a gay brother.
Wait till I tell you about my roommates.
That's why you're the co-host. I still don't understand how these different pots work, man. God, poker's taking up all my attention. I can't even get up.
What's the content of a KKK rap music video?
I think you're just in the building while they were sitting around and talking, man.
You could just fake that. Just get a bunch.
It's better if it's real. Like,
Yeah, you can convince people it's real. They wouldn't believe it's real anyway.
but it's not like it doesn't work if it's not real. Because then it's just like a set, and then like you're trying, like then it's like you tried to do that, and I don't know. Then there has to be a point to it instead of just it's like you showed up. Like I don't know.
It would be funny to record the process of showing up and like rolling up to it.
Well, yeah, you would have to include little bits like to
Yeah.
prove that it's real. Just like
I should just contact the Ku Klux Klan and see if they'll let me film.
they're not busy. Yeah, I know. There's 8 of them.
Yeah, it's like, will you let us shoot a rap music video at your meeting?
Don't say it's rap right at the gate. That's
How would you feel about us shooting a music video at your meeting? Yeah, okay. This could probably happen.
probably not during the meeting. That'd be a little distracting. You know, people are talking. But you know, in the sort of meet and greet, maybe after the.
Like when they've got like little cookies and stuff. And
Yeah,
tea.
when they go and they eat coffee cake and
discuss about their clan activities.
and they hang around, you know.
You know, the part when he said that the darkies are responsible for the downfall of Western civilization really spoke to me. That really got me deep, you know. Because I think about that all the time, and I'm just wondering, you know, it's nice to know that somebody else thinks about that.
Could you speak closer to my chest, please? Could you? Oh, I didn't even realize there was another guy playing.
I'm gonna start doing a PG version. I'm gonna go through and edit all of the bad words and swears, all the cussing out of Cumtown, and re-release it up on iTunes as Chumtown. And
But would you remove the bits about being gay?
no, it stays in. That's chill.
Okay, just the language.
Is one of them gay? I don't know anything about Cumtown.
They joke about being gay a lot.
Oh, that's fine.
They're not gay though.
No, that's not fine.
What about when they're describing intimate sex acts?
I mean, kids gotta learn at some point, right?
Okay, is pussy allowed?
Again, kids gotta learn at some point.
Okay,
It's better that they learn from 3
tougher
good
than you
chums.
expect. I don't know. I lost a lot of money very quickly. I'm not sure how.
Summary of Vegas.
That's what we should do. Go to Vegas.
Oh, there you go. Just get a bunch of gross strippers. I'll call it. I'm gonna lose, but I'll call it. Oh, okay. This isn't fair. I had a bunch of red cards, and he's got a bunch of black cards.
If I went to Vegas, I probably wouldn't be strippers. I don't know. Would I do drugs though?
What?
I don't know. Are you supposed to drop acid in Vegas?
Oh, that's the Hunter Thompson thing, man. That's played. Everyone's done that.
Oh, everyone's done that. So you're just supposed to gamble,
Yeah.
like a true fucking.
You're supposed to be the lizards
maverick.
that he's making fun of. We're post irony now.
Wait, so does that mean you do or don't do the acid?
You accidentally have to do it.
You can't do it yourself.
Yeah. You go around drinking random drinks.
You have to drop hints at your friends that you want to be spiked with acid. You have to like be a woman about it.
You have to go swipe girls' drinks in the hopes that one of them is roofied.
Oh no. You have to convince your friends to roofie your own drink.
Oh
but
man,
subtly.
wouldn't it be crazy if it was The Hangover but real?
Have you guys seen The Hangover?
I should have stayed in. I wanted to see what that last card was.
How much would you set aside for a Vegas gambling?
You probably want to go with $500 at least.
Okay, I was thinking like 1,000.
Yeah, I'm saying 500's on the low end. 1,000 would probably make more sense.
Yeah.
But like, what if you win?
Well, that's great, but
Damn.
you have to really write off that money.
No, it's gonna be my rent money.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So this episode of the podcast, I get fucking evicted. Recording this one from my car. I think, didn't you record an episode from a car once?
I recorded episodes from my car in a parking lot of the mall.
Some weird shit.
It was pretty funny. I couldn't look at my notes because I was in a car. And there was like security driving around and I was getting paranoid.
Well, how the fuck did you had to move at points during the episode, I think?
I was driving around, yeah.
Why the fuck, how did this not turn in my favor? I needed one card. Come on.
There's lots of cards, man. There's 52 of those suckers. I would just do the slots.
Just
because I wouldn't want to do a table game because I know I would fuck everything up. I wouldn't know how to play right.
You would get yelled at by people. It's like, you took my fucking card, bro.
I only know the general rules, but like, I can't do anything without being an expert at it. It fucking terrifies me. So like, I can't even like blackjack. I'd fucking.
Did I tell you about a wedding I went to recently? Which I was a guest, not a. I was not filming it. Yeah, where I got roped into a culturally significant dance that I had no knowledge of whatsoever, and I was at it like no, not the fucking. We weren't doing a holla, but it was. I was at like a 9 out of 10 drunk.
Lift the guy up on a chair.
I was at a 9 out of 10 drunk, and it's like a square dancing thing. And there's like all of these different steps, and I'm too drunk. I can retain one of them at a time, and by the time I get pulled into the next one, I'm getting jostled around by all these old women who are pissed at me for not knowing the dance.
Oh no! How do they expect you to know?
Well, and they were pretty. I say they were pissed. They were pretty gracious about it, but by the end, they're like, I cannot believe this idiot doesn't know the fucking dance yet. There's only like fucking 4 moves.
I think everyone would be wasted. It's a wedding.
Yeah, but they've done it so many times, you know.
Oh, what kind of culture?
Oh, just crackers, you know. It's just fucking. You know, just bunch of honkies.
White people don't have a culturally significant dance.
Well, it's not culturally significant. It's that if you're a part of the culture, you know it to your core.
What culture though?
Just they're like Polish.
Oh, okay. It's like the Deer Hunter.
Yeah, it's exactly like Deer Hunter.
That's all I know about the Deer Hunter is that the first hour is a single scene in a wedding.
It felt like it went on forever. It was like a 10-minute song too.
Yeah.
Oh god, it was so brutal. They wouldn't let me out either.
Well, see, that's their fault. If they're mad at you, that's.
I don't think they were mad at me. I think they were enjoying my pain. Yeah.
Honey scented. Gnome 2750. These fucking people. As I call 180,000 with a 6 and a 10. Fuck. I need it. Just getting rained on by chips.
I just keep winning, baby. I guess honey scented won a lot there.
Yeah. No, you lost a lot of money.
I won a little bit.
I was gonna fold on this one. Yeah, gotta take a break.
I got a couple more games to me and I'm getting on the road. Man, oh man. Alright, so we've deduced all the things that we shouldn't be doing.
Have we?
A couple of them.
Okay. Yeah, we got some ideas that we were gonna forget. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll just. I guess my only takeaway is I'm gonna drive to Massachusetts and buy a ton of weed.
There you go.
That sounds awful.
Then we might go to Vegas.
I'm not gonna do that. Then we'll go to Vegas. Yeah, not with the weed though.
No, that's a bad idea. One of us could go to rehab even though we don't have a problem.
Are we gonna try to convince people we do have a problem, or are we just gonna be like, yeah, I just want to be here?
Well, that's the spirit, isn't it? We got to figure out what one. Oh God. Oh no. Look at this fucking table.
I want to take a road trip, and I want to drive as far north as is possible.
You want to go all the way to where it's just like sheets of ice?
Just tundra, yeah, and just where the road ends. Mm-hmm. That sounds fun.
Fight some bears.
Well, I mean, they would be like polar bears at that point.
I could fuck up a polar bear. Have I told you about how David is of the opinion he could fight an alligator?
That sounds like something he would. I feel like he has claimed he could fight. And didn't he say he could fight a wolf?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he thinks he's definitely got a wolf.
That's not true.
That's insane.
He doesn't know how big a wolf is, does? Or I mean, he's just fucking with you. There's no way he actually thinks this.
He's maintained this for like 3 months now.
Why wouldn't he? No, he's just messing with you. Like
yeah, I think that, but sometimes I don't know. I could have won that. I definitely couldn't win.
Actually, I mean, an alligator is actually easier than a wolf.
Well,
alligators are not agile. They just have extremely strong teeth and they can wiggle around a lot, but they're not that big. And if you really clasp onto one, mount it, you can really subdue it, I think.
I just don't think he's got the skills to do that. I think he gets noshed well before then.
They're not very nimble creatures. I mean, you have a decent chance. A wolf is so much muscle, and it can move in so many different more dimensions than an alligator can.
Well, a wolf, if it can just launch itself at you and you're fucked. You get hit with
yeah, and it's like you can't grab all its limbs at once.
No,
it's like,
especially when you're trying to fight, when you get the jaw, going at you.
Yeah, bad news.
It'll knock you off your feet and then you're dead. If you're on the ground, it's over. I don't like his chances against an alligator either.
Wolves are so big.
You don't want to fuck with a wolf. We're just in awe. Wolves are so big,
dude.
It's crazy. Oh,
that's what I'm saying. Anyone can beat a gator if you get the mouth closed. Yeah, and that's not 100% likely, but you can do it.
Yeah, I just don't think David can do it. He's not like...
Or if you get the mouth closed, or if you get behind the mouth, because it's like, if you grab the neck, it can't turn 180 degrees. It doesn't have a skinny little neck where it can flip all the way around.
Well, it's a fight to the death, though.
The whole thing is a neck.
It's not about can he escape it. It's can he kill it with his bare hands.
Oh, if it's about killing, I mean, yeah, you know.
There's no doubt in my mind he can get away from a gator, or maybe like if it gets up on him, he could fight it long enough and then tire it out to get away. But if he has to kill it with his bare hands, I don't think he's got it.
He doesn't have either of those, no.
No, a wolf would absolutely destroy him, though. I mean, there are places you can go to fight gators. I'm kind of interested in watching my friend lose a limb.
Yeah, like how long a drive would it be from you to gators?
Not very far. I think you can get him in Louisiana.
Okay. Yeah, that's doable.
Just find one in the wild, record it, live stream it on Facebook.
I mean, yeah, no, you could do that.
Just imagine how surreal it would be, like, because my Facebook posts are pretty mundane. then out of nowhere one day, it's just Ethan is streaming.
The arc of like normal posts for years, and then the one video of David on top of a golf cart getting scratched, me driving under pine trees and him screaming, and then more years and years of normal posts, and then it's him fighting an alligator.
Oh, it sounds good. Okay, maybe I can make that happen.
That's a fun thing we did, is we put him on, or he got on top of a golf cart and I just drove through a bunch of fucking spruce trees or whatever.
Yeah. That was dumb. Fucking stupid.
He knew it was coming.
Yeah.
He was like driving under the trees. I was like, okay. He's like, yeah.
He had the presence of mind afterwards to say that was great. Let's go again, which is pretty good. I would be in so much pain. I'm not sure I'd be able to do that.
I'll go all in before the flop. I don't give a fuck.
Fuck. No, not like this. No.
Down the drain.
No.
Oh, okay. There we go.
You got most of your money back.
I got most of it back.
I
got the money.
All my money's
there we
gone.
go.
All my money's gone.
Thank you.
I busted. I think that's it for me. I busted out.
I just busted.
Busting
Mega chests.
makes me feel good. Ugh. All right, yeah, we'll see. We'll do a face reveal on our YouTube page while showing our friend get mauled by an alligator. We would need, I don't know, what would we be able to have to stop the gator from killing him?
What do you mean? What would he have?
Well, because like, what point do we intervene? When do you think you're ready to intervene?
I don't know if you can just intervene. Like, he can run away or he can't. You know, if he can't run away, then he's fucked. You gotta leave him.
So it's over. Sorry.
I think it's over. Yeah.
Sorry, man.
What are you gonna risk your fucking leg?
Nature won.
I'm not getting my leg kill rolled. What's the murder rolled, so that he can escape his very bad decision to fight an alligator. Death roll. That's what they call it. I was thinking of what kill word is it? Yeah, and besides making our lives more interesting, in terms of more content I want to make, I want to do, I don't know, I want to do more live stuff. I wish I had, I should do a commute show. I should live stream my commute every morning and talk about the latest, see, that's the problem, is things to talk about.
What's coming up in
the idea of streaming is great.
What's the next season looking like?
Oh, let's go to
Holy fuck, I'm so tired.
canachart.net.
More Railgun.
There is a new Railgun.
Oh, what, this airs a while from now. We got time. When does the season start?
January.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. We got time to put out some more content before the end of the year then.
A little bit, yeah. Oh, yeah, there's a Madoka spin-off.
What?
Based on the gacha game.
Oh, good. I love gacha games.
Wait, how do I...
I'm gonna go pee really quick.
All right. Wait. Where's the... Oh, there we go. Sort. Next airing episode. I got a good hand. I got a good-ass hand. Don't tell anyone, but I got a good-ass hand. Ooh. Ooh, pair of kings. Ooh. Haha, sucker. That's how you get him. Darwin's Game. The story centers on Kaname Sudo, a high school boy who is drawn to a mysterious game app titled Darwin's Game. He becomes involved in a social game where the stakes are life and death. Wow, very original. I won like $500,000 while you were in the bathroom.
Nice, dude.
Yokai Watch. I'm not watching that. Koisuru Asteroid.
I was talking to my dad today.
Doga Kobo. That looks cute.
I was talking to my dad today, and for whatever reason, we got on the topic of like, this is stuff that happened like 8 years ago now. Of
I missed my turn.
This girl I had a crush on in high school for some reason, and then he's like, "Oh yeah,
This girl had
I had a crush on a girl in high school, not like a serious one, no, and not anybody that would be relevant to your life, I think, but." Yeah, and we were just talking about her. He's like, "Oh yeah, she liked you," and I'm like, "Dad, why do you know that she liked me?" And she's like,
it's a weird thing.
It's like, "Oh yeah, I know her dad. Yeah, she talked about you a lot and said that she thought you were cool and cute and stuff." And I'm like, "Dad, why the fuck didn't you tell me this at the time? Why did you hold this? Why did you hold this information back until it's no longer useful?"
You need to learn. The boy needs to learn.
Why must he make me suffer, you old man? You fuck. I could have clapped cheekies. Anyway, but yeah, I thought that was funny. I'm like, "Dad, you bastard! Why? Could have had her." Ooh, we got shorts. I feel like we've been lacking in shorts recently.
Oh, you looking at the...
Yeah, I got a whole bunch of them, and they're cute too.
Oh, you left the poke. Okay.
Oh, I've been playing poker in a minute now.
Okay.
I watched the first couple of episodes of Boku no Hero Academia, and I thought it was fine. And now it's like the biggest anime in the West, and I want to die.
I watched the first season, and it was not good.
It's like,
I'm sure it gets better, but, you know.
No reason for me to feel this way, but I do.
Geno Studios back.
Shirobako movie? Okay.
Alright, yeah, I'm gonna leave this table with my $1 million.
There you go. Get out while the getting's good. Is it? Can we watch Weathering with You yet?
No way. That's like... I might even still be in theaters, and then we gotta wait 6 months for... Blu-rays.
It's playing in January in the States. I might be able to catch that. Actually, I'll definitely be able to catch that.
Yeah, you'll definitely catch that.
Yeah, I thought that last one was pretty good.
ID invaded.
Felt like Makoto Shinkai kind of lived up to his potential with that Your Name, and so did all of Japan when they saw it 8 times.
Mm-hmm. There's a sports show about oh no, really? Paralympics?
What?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, baby, let's get it. This is my fetish. Wait, how come you can't have 2 dudes that are missing legs? One of them is missing both of them, and one of them is only missing one. What's the guy in the back got?
Yeah, what's the 2 in the back's
They just got visors.
One of them is blind, and what?
Looks like
one of them's missing an arm. Oh, that's
this is really
rough.
I don't know how I feel about this.
Oh man. There's a CG show. Number 24. Rugby? Really?
Dean.
Oh, fuck yeah. We get big boys lathering each other up.
A new show by Rock. Nekopara. Magic. Another magic. Not magical girl, but girl who does magic show.
Yep.
World famous magician. Wow.
We got ourselves a jewelry appraiser. There we go. Another one of those slow, boring shop shows that's gay.
22/7 Idol show. I've heard a lot about this one. We're trying to be Kyoani.
Why wouldn't you? Is Kyoani back in business yet? What's going on with them?
I don't know.
In the wake of that horrible fire.
I don't know.
That arson. Hope they're okay.
Doro ahead, Doro. The story revolves around Kai Man, who does not remember who he was before he was transfigured by a magic user. His transformation left him with a reptile's head. Oh, excuse me.
You know what's a weird thing?
Hold on 1 second.
Go ahead.
This transformation left him with a reptile's head and a desire to find out the truth about who he really is. Accompanied by Nikaido, his female companion, he tracks down magic users in the hole and unceremoniously chomps down on their head,
Oh, God.
hoping to find out who it was that put him in this state. One by one, they witness this second man inside the head of Kaiman, and after pulling them back out of his mouth, he asks them all a question. What did the guy inside my head say?
That's a bit of a mouthful there.
Fucking crazy.
It's good stuff.
I should put...
Well, this all looks great. I can't wait for all this amazing anime next year. This should be great. This one's got dogs in it. They got Doggy Nobunaga. Yep. Oh yeah.
Dog Nobunaga. What?
This is a one-of-a-kind samurai general reincarnated as a canine comedy.
Where does it say that?
And Oda Cinnamon Nobunaga?
Oh no. Oh no.
Oh, that's
would
the
they-
stuff.
Infinite Dendrogram. The world's first successful full drive VR MMO. Wow. No, we probably shouldn't be doing this on Twitch. I don't know. Plunderer. This got a Gyaru. It's got a big old brown. Look at that big titty.
Wow.
Alright.
Titties.
Okay. I like titties.
Whole bunch of more Nanatsu no Taizai, huh?
They show him in the trailer. They keep making that, and I should really watch Mahjong, I think, or Shogi.
Karuta? What is Karuta?
Is that a name?
It's like the Japanese playing card thing.
Shihaya Furu is?
Yeah.
Oh, it's another game that I didn't even know about.
Yep.
Okay.
Huh.
I used to think Chihaya Furu was about weed
Oh,
because the poster has all these Japanese maple leaves on it.
because it's super traditional. The most traditional thing of all. Weed.
That Kush. What's going on in this?
Doesn't weed just grow all over Hokkaido?
I believe there's some, yeah. Or is it hemp? Well, that's, Monster Girls? Okay.
I'm calling it. I'm donezo. I'm
All right.
out.
Well, I hope you enjoyed poker, everybody.
Because we sure did.
I loved it. I loved the poker.
I love it when I get it.
All right, that one was extra, so it didn't have to be good. Bye, everybody. Everybody.